Hey, I'm your host, Mark Martella, and in today's show, I'm going to do a special show on goal achieving. As we reach the end of the year, it's a time to reflect on what we accomplished, where we may have fallen short, and to reassess and set new goals for the upcoming year. So today I want to share with you my goal achieving system that has helped me grow my business, write my book, and even lose weight. So I know it works. And of course, if you want to get control of your finances and get out of debt, you can also use it to implement my 5-step financial sanity solution, which you can learn about in detail by listening to episode 13 of this show on the Money Matters website at www.markmartella.com and clicking on the radio show podcast page. So let's get started. Unfortunately, what I've seen in my business life as an attorney representing a lot of bankruptcy clients, especially those who own small businesses, is that in their desperation to try to keep the doors open, they make many financial mistakes, including pulling money out of a 401k or taking out a second and third mortgage on their homestead. These are big mistakes because both of these assets are protected from creditors. They also run up huge credit card debts, and the worst thing they can do is borrow money from family and friends to try to save a sinking ship. They take desperate actions like this instead of reaching for help and looking to a third party to assist them and analyze the reality of their situation. Quite often, by the time they come to see me, not only is it too late to save their business, but in reality, my clients knew long ago that the end was near and their struggle hopeless, but nevertheless, they irrationally tried to hang on based upon hope and not a true plan of action. Now, there's all kinds of books and programs out there that claim they can help you set your goals. The problem that I found with them is that they're too all-encompassing and overwhelming, so that if you read the book and follow all the charts and fill out all the forms inside them, when you're done, you're too overwhelmed to even begin to take the actions necessary to achieve your goals, since the planning stage was so exhausting. Even if you start in one area, they give you 18 other areas you're supposed to work on to make your life perfect. In the end, you wind up overwhelmed and you give up. So I wanted to design a different system that wasn't so overwhelming and that I could stick to and reproduce. I took the best of each system I studied and developed a proven system that has consistently worked for me. However, before I get into the nuts and bolts of this goal-achieving system, we need to address really what stops us from achieving our goals and how to overcome these obstacles. Once we get past these roadblocks, then I'll share with you my proven system that I've used in my own business and in my personal life to achieve goals, from increasing productivity in my office by 300% in my bankruptcy practice to opening a new office in just 30 days, which in the first 9 months generated an extra $25,000 bonus. It helped me write my first book, Bankruptcy in Plain English. And finally, as I said, it also helped me lose some weight. But before we get into the system, again, we first need to identify the enemy that prevents us from reaching our goals. You know, we all have dreams. For some, it may be starting your own business. For others, it may be writing a novel or play or spending 2 weeks in Europe. If those are your dreams, if you have any other dreams, I'm telling you right now that you can achieve them, even if it's losing weight, running a marathon, or moving 1,500 miles away from where you grew up to start a new life, to get out of the snow and cold. Maybe some of you have done a crazy thing like that. So do you have a dream that as of today, you've not reached or even taken that first step toward achieving? Well, who is the enemy that stops us? Is it some massive army? Is it a vicious pack of wolves? Is it Darth Vader and the dark side of the Force? The reality is our enemy has no nuclear weapons to stop us. It has no vicious teeth to rip our flesh, and it has no Death Star to blow up our world. Nevertheless, our enemy is more powerful than all of these combined when it comes to stopping us from achieving our goals. And it's only made up of about 3 pounds of gelatinous material, our brain. It's our mind. It's our thoughts that prevent us from achieving our goals and our dreams. Therefore, we need some weapons, some proven systems to help defeat this 3-pound evil creature that resides within our bodies. So if we think of our physical brain, well, frankly, it's not really an intimidating creature. So let's use our brains to visualize what this enemy is that stops us from achieving our goals, that stops us from achieving and changing our lives to the lives we truly want to live, that stops us from achieving the dreams we desire. Let's picture our brains as a fire-breathing, 3-headed dragon. One head represents doubt and fears. The second head represents resistance and procrastination. And the third head represents what I call our stubborn independence, which can be described as our failure to reach out for the assistance we need to raise our game to the next level. Now let's take a look at and examine these obstacles that our brain puts in front of us, and let's start with doubt and fear. Most doubts and fears are truly figments of our imagination. They are created by our own thoughts and are simply the result of a chemical reaction in your brain. The doubts that we have may have started from when we were a child. It could be as a result of a well-intended parent who cautions us about taking risk and warned us that we had to do well in school and then go to college versus taking a year off and traveling by backpack through Europe. Those doubts and fears may continue with us in our adult life when we say to ourselves, well, I want to start my own business, but the timing just isn't right. These doubts continue to grow in our mind to make us less sure. And you'll create more questions in your mind like, I'm not sure it's time to quit my job. Maybe it's not the right time to move somewhere I would really love to live. Then the dragon of fear and self-doubt grows even more powerful, and we keep thinking about this thing we want to do, but what if it doesn't work out? What if I can't handle that I'm not good enough? What if they don't like me? What will my friends think if I fail? My family. The naysayers who will say, I told you so. What if I can't turn back? So how do we defeat the dragon head of doubt and fear? Well, the good news is you've all defeated fear in the past. Think about it. Everything you know, everything you do in your business or personal life, you had to learn. You weren't born with the knowledge of how to make a souffle, prepare a corporate tax return, interview potential employees, or market your business. Everything is learned. So you have to believe in your ability to learn based upon what you've done in the past. This will allow you to build the confidence that if you put in the time and effort, you'll learn what you need to learn and do what you need to do, and you will fulfill your dreams. Now, the real question you have to ask yourself is, are you willing to separate yourself from the masses? Are you willing to be that 3% of the population that puts in that extra effort, who is willing to not only do what is necessary to maintain your life and provide for your family, but to make the extra effort to change your life and learn and then implement what you need to do to fulfill your dreams? I'm not here to tell you it's easy, but I am here to tell you it can be done. To get past our fears, we need to understand the basis of our fears. Fear is something all animals have. It's something that is innate within us to help protect and preserve our lives. It's what causes us to run when we see a vicious animal chase us. It's the fear we have walking on the edge of a cliff. It's the fear that we may have when someone points a gun at us if we're inside a burning building. Fear is designed to save our life. But many of the fears that we face are purely of the mind. They're not designed to protect our existence, but rather to protect our fragile ego. When we talk about pursuing our dreams, most of our fears are not related to protecting us from physical harm or death. It's to make sure that our ego is not bruised. Irrational, emotional fear to protect our ego turns into a crutch to the point where we have become enslaved by it. This fear that we feel to protect our ego is basically our fear of being rejected or isolated, laughed at, or ridiculed, embarrassed. Or maybe it's your fear that you will fail to live up to your own personal expectations or the expectations of others. Or you're afraid that you will not be respected. As a result of this fear, we then just get into the habit of taking the easy route. We stay at that job that we hate because we have a guaranteed paycheck, and it's easier and safer than finding another job. We stay in that bad relationship because it's easier than trying to get out and trying to survive on our own. Or we have this great novel in our heads, but we don't sit down and write it and send it to a publisher for fear we will be rejected. J.K. Rowling was rejected 13 times with her first Harry Potter book. In reality, failing at any of these things will not affect our physical survival. So you must ask yourself, when the show is over, why not do it? We simply have to take a step back and realize that it's our brain that is causing these fears of the consequences of following our own dreams, following our hearts. It's the fear of poverty, the fear of filing bankruptcy, the fear of having to grovel if we try to make it out on our own, the fear of throwing away our education and continuing to labor in a field we don't like out of some sense of obligation, the fear of throwing everything away that we work so hard for, even though it makes us miserable. And while all of these fears of the mind stop us, I submit to you that the real fear that we may have is the fear of success, the fear that we can become the person that we sense in our hearts we're meant to be. It's a fear of discovering that you're more than what you think you are, more than what your parents or teachers told you, and that maybe you actually possess the talents that the voice inside of your head tells you that you have. Remember, the greatest basketball player of all time was told by his high school coach that he wasn't good enough and cut him from the team. Yes, Michael Jordan. What if Michael Jordan let someone else's opinion control his destiny? Well, the second evil head of the dragon is resistance. Resistance takes the form of delay or really procrastination. And we all procrastinate. We all have this conversation with ourselves in our minds that, well, the timing may just not be right, or I need to wait until next year when the economy is better. You can't just rush these things. Or, depending on your political leanings, I need to wait until there's a new president. And often this fear will be fueled by our friends and family who may fill us with negative thoughts and telling us that you're not good enough. And to be truly successful will take some luck. You shouldn't dream of doing what you want, but you should settle and be happy with what you have. If you're surrounded with people infecting you with these destructive, negative thoughts, then the first thing you need to do is find some new friends. Because of fear, we simply just delay, and the problem with delaying is that delay becomes a habit. And then all of a sudden, we keep putting things off until we're in our deathbed. We may also blame others for why we're not taking steps to achieve our goals. Maybe because of trouble with our kids, or trouble with our elderly parents, or difficulties with our spouse. A slave driver boss who wears us out all day, so we have no energy to pursue our dreams when we get home at night. There's always an excuse our brain lets us convince ourselves of. But in the end, those are all just excuses perpetrated by the dragon, and it needs to be slayed. We need to get past this fear and past this self-oppression, this condition of letting our own negative thoughts and actions restrict us is an inside job. We burden our own spirit by continuously cowering in fear and distraction. We are the ones who limit ourselves. We procrastinate on setting out on a new adventure simply because we can't get past the uncertainty. And I'm not just talking about thinking positive. The power of positive thinking has its limitations. It must be combined with taking action. we also have to realize that pursuing our dreams will not come without sacrifice and pain and lots of time and hard work. But if you truly wish to live the life you were meant to live, to fulfill what you believe is the reason for why you were put on this earth, you must be willing to make the sacrifice and put in the hard work to reach that goal, not only to change your life, but to change the life of others and possibly the course of history. Remember, any time we try to change our patterns, get outside of our comfort zone, there's going to be some discomfort and fear. But as I explained, in defeating the first head of this dragon, 99% of the time your fear is unfounded. So how do we get past procrastination? The answer is very simple: by saying to yourself, enough is enough, get up off your butt and taking action. For example, this concept of money matters is a result of my bankruptcy clients for years asking me how they could avoid going back into bankruptcy again. While the obvious answer in most cases was simply not to use credit cards, the reality is most people fall back into a mountain of debt. One night, I finally decided to get off my butt and start a Facebook page and to do a Facebook Live show. That led to this radio show and a website. All of a sudden, after years of procrastinating, a whole bunch of stuff started happening, and I started to reach people who found my information helpful. Where this will ultimately lead, I'm not sure, but I can tell you I wish I had not let my fears hold me back for so long. So we get past fear by taking action. In turn, by taking action, we then build confidence. And keep in mind, everything you do is not going to be a success, but just because it's not a success doesn't mean it's a failure. It just means you're one step closer to achieving success if you learn lessons from your experience. Again, I'll share an example of when I opened up an office in Sarasota to expand my practice. I did my due diligence. My numbers all worked on paper. However, I now refer to it as my $50,000 MBA because that's how much I lost in less than a year's time because of certain factors outside of my control that I knew about, but that I did not take into consideration in my planning. Due to some powers from above, a fire helped make my decision to end the financial bleeding. However, as a result of the lessons I learned from that venture, when I opened up my office in Fort Myers, I did it differently. And in just the first 9 months, made an extra $25,000 in profits with none of the headaches and significantly less effort than in my Sarasota experiment. And I'm reminded of one of my favorite quotes from Thomas Edison when he said he learned 10,000 ways not to make a light bulb before he got the first one to work. So implementing the system we're going to talk about in a moment is the action you need to move things along and slay the second head of the dragon.